deal with airplane peanuts.
The young guys like Sam Morrell and Mark Norman, these guys are able to turn an hour. Really, it's impressive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, these are all joke ideas. Probably 1 or 2% of this is working.
This is like the Dead Sea Scrolls. He's not doing this by accident. This is real.
That's the Quran.
It's got blue sweat from his blue jeans.
No, don't throw it out.
Bro, you've been wearing these in the summer.
Easy, I need those. That's my new hour.
There's no doubt Mark Norman is one of the most prolific joke writers on the planet today, and has the body of work to prove it. With his insane amount of comedic output being sustained for over a decade, Mark Norman is basically a joke writing machine. But the complete farm-to-table process of creating a new Mark Norman joke has always been a bit of a mystery to both comedy fans and comedians alike.
You guys are the biggest turnover guys I've ever seen in my life.
Much like magicians keeping their tricks a secret, very few comics have ever pulled back the curtain far enough to reveal the true journey of a joke. Until now.
Yeah, I got something. Hey, is this stupid? I killed in my apartment. God, I hope this wasn't an expensive ticket. Got a dumb idea, that's how comedy starts. You take it on stage, it bombs, and you do it again. Too far. All right, we'll work on that. Oh, God, we're supposed to be there. Hey, we'll be back for the 10:30. All right, we gotta go. I'm on in 6 minutes. Thanks, sir. With a joke premise, you come up with kind of an idea, and you try a bunch of different angles. Hard to be pro-bestiality. That's a tough take. And one of the angles hits, you just go that way. Woo! That was a tough set. Knowing which way to go is half the battle. We'll see how it goes. This shit never works. Let's go racial. If I don't know the premise, they're not going to know the premise. That's the best that's ever done. That's how comedy's created, and it ain't pretty. It's very humiliating, and we're going to do it tonight. If you notice, even when you write a new joke, the joke lasts about 11 seconds. Driver, you got any ideas? You can see how long it takes to build an hour. All right, I'll work on that one. Because I'm just kind of going up and winging it. Nothing's going to happen.
Sometimes it's done and it's just not good enough.
Like, I think they were waiting for more.
Put your hands together for Jerry. Thank you, Mark.
The page to the stage. I have a title.
The clip you just watched is the trailer for a new Mark Norman show titled Page to Stage. And recently, we had the chance to ask Mark a few questions in order to learn more about the real process of birthing a joke start to finish from one of the top joke writers alive.
Speaking of the online Wild West world, you have a new project coming out, Page to Stage. Shows the entire life cycle of one 38-second joke from conception to perfection. When you're starting out from scratch after releasing a new special, is it easier to lock in on figuring out one new premise at a time like we see in Page to Stage? Are you nourishing multiple new jokes simultaneously?
You're always working a couple. You're always spinning a few plates. But for this show, Page to Stage, we focused on one bit and how much tweaking and failure and trial and error. And as you can see, it's quite humiliating. But it's the only way to do it. And even editing the thing, it was like cringy to watch because you get that feeling of bombing. And it's also crazy to me hasn't been done yet. You know, like the closest we've seen is a Comedian with Seinfeld, that documentary.
Yeah.
But this is just one joke. It took months. I went all over the world with the fucking bit. And then hopefully if the show works and people like it, we'll make more. We'll do one with Jimmy Carr. We'll do one with Shane Gillis. We'll do one with Michelle Wolf. We'll do one with Ronnie Chang, whatever it is.
Oh, we froze up there a little bit at the end, but that sounds awesome, taking this concept with more comedians. That'd be unreal, because part of what's so interesting about seeing the sausage gets made is how you avoid bombing even when the joke doesn't work, if that makes sense. As someone who tries a lot of new stuff, are there built-in defense mechanisms that you use to make even a bomb funny for the audience?
Sure. Well, as you know, comedy comes from tension. So when you're bombing, it's tense. So all you got to do is just acknowledge it, and it'll cut the tension, which is in itself funny. So you know, after you bomb so many times, I've been doing comedy for a long time, so you kind of know how to veer out of it, and it's like a skid. You gotta lean into it. It's the only way out. So yeah, you can make that funny too, but it's not the goal. You want the bit to work ultimately.
That makes sense, but I'm sure it still feels good to get laughs, because sometimes being at shows, that's the funniest thing as an audience member, is when they're like, all right, that one sucked, or whatever, you know, cross it out.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of endearing.
But how do you know when a premise has been tried from every angle and worked out enough and you're like, I'm going to give up on this one, or I should continue to toil with it?
I think you can feel it. That's where the comedy bones come in. You can kind of feel it when, like, I like this idea, but it's just maybe more interesting than funny. So I just got to drop it. But sometimes I've had jokes where I'm like, I'm bombing with this joke, but I know there's something there. So it's really, it's down deep in the butthole. You can really feel that tingle or not. But hey, we're not always right. So that's why you got to do so much trial and error.
Is it easier to get that feeling when you know you should throw something away versus when it's funny enough to stop working on it?
Yeah. I think the feeling of when it's funny enough to keep going is the strongest. But sometimes you just got to listen to the crowd and stop humiliating yourself and just drop the goddamn thing. But you can also put it in your back pocket. Maybe in 2 years, try it again.
Yeah. Speaking of the crowds, do the people at these shows in the city know that you're on the lineup beforehand? And is there a difference in how much you trust a reaction to a new joke if it's told in front of your crowd versus a random audience?
Wow, good question. See, that's why you're the guy. That's a very smart question there. You want both. So I with the Comedy Cellar, I usually do it unannounced. I don't know why. I like it better that way. And at the other clubs, I usually announce. Okay. So sometimes you need your people to kind of boost you along and like kind of hold your hand. Like, I trust you. I'll stay with you. Mm-hmm. And then you also need the other crowd to go, we don't know you. We don't give a shit. It's either funny or not funny. So both are useful.
That makes sense. When you're in the back seat of these cars going from show to show, discussing your jokes in the back, do the drivers ever turn around kind of confused? Like, why is this guy talking about the difference between eating versus fucking animals in my car?
All the time. I've got some real weird looks from guys named Muhammad who are like, what the hell's this guy all about? But hey, I live in New York City, so there's probably a guy jerking off back there anyway.
Well, one of the funniest parts of Page to Stage was the show that you did on the 13th floor of some office building that you showed up a week early and then ending up testing material out on the door guy. My question is, did you actually get those dates wrong, or was that a page out of Larry's playbook showing up the wrong night on purpose?
Well, as you can see with the Zoom, I fucked up the timing of this, so it's real. I have no scheduling abilities. I can barely book a flight. I'm a tard. So that was real. And my camera guy was like, you should just try it on the door guy. And that door guy was just some bitter, sad loser dude who, nobody talks to. So he was willing to hear it and he hated it. So that was comedy gold. Well,
I have a few more questions for you here, then we'll get you out of here. Thank you so much for your time today, Mark. Comedy's going through a huge boom right now in general. We just saw all this happen with Netflix. It seems like it can't get any bigger. What are your thoughts on all of this trending upwards? Are you scared of a drop? Do you think it's going to keep going exponentially? What are your thoughts on how big comedy's gotten?
It's wild. I mean, did you see that thing that came out? It showed a graph of the comedy sales over the last few years, and it just 2023 was just like through the moon. I think it worries me because I love it. I'm having so much fun, and we're selling tickets, and people give a shit, and there's so many more opportunities and all that. But I'm scared it'll go away. So much like any cynical comedian, I can't enjoy the good part. But I'm worried it'll go away. But I talked to other comics who are doing arenas, and they're like, "Nah, it's here to stay. It's just this is how it is now." So I guess it's here to stay, and I hope they're right. But it's pretty great. I'm very grateful, and I'm very aware of how lucky we are. Yeah,
the crazy thing about that graph, I was talking to someone who pointed out Taylor Swift's tour still made more than the entire industry, which is mind-blowing.
Page to Stage is not only a super rare peek into the joke writing process for Mark Norman fans, but it's also extremely educational for fans of stand-up comedy in general to see what it's really like crafting a joke over the course of many months until it's finally complete. And like Mark Norman said during our interview, if this debut episode does well, there will be plenty more behind-the-scenes episodes featuring some of the best comedians in the world. So do everyone a favor and let Mark know who they should cover next in the comments of this video. And be sure to support this project if you're a fan of independent comedy. Thank you for watching, and if you do check out Page to Stage, be sure to tell him Joke World sent you.
At Joke World. That's it, at Joke World. And the world is WRLD.
That's a great YouTube channel, Joke World. Check it out.